You've been training double hard for your upcoming Hyrox race, but something just doesn't feel right. The signs are there, but you can't quite put your finger on exactly what it might be. And today we're going to be talking about those things and explaining the 3 biggest signs that you are not in fact ready for your next Hyrox race. My name is Sam Gerlin. I'm the founder of Gerlin Nutrition. I'm a fully qualified nutritionist and I'm a health and fitness coach. And today, as I say, we're going to be talking about the 3 signs that, I see most often amongst my clients, amongst, people in my wider sort of network, that demonstrate to me that people are not in fact ready for their next Hyrox race. It's something that I've actually experienced myself. It's something that I've experienced quite recently. So believe me, I'm speaking from experience when I talk about these things. But without any further ado, let's get straight into this. As always, I've got my trusty little laptop with me to make sure I'm hitting all the points that I want to hit and covering all bases here for you today. I'm coming with the value, so stay tuned. It's going to be a nice and quick one. I'm going to try and fly through this, starting with sign number 1, which is quite simply a training plateau. Now, what is a training plateau? It is effectively just a point that you reach where you're not making any more progress on your lifts, on your runs, on your times on the row or the ski, whatever it may be. It's a point of stagnation, effectively. This is why I recommend at the start of a training block to set some baseline numbers. So whether that be a back squat, whether that be a deadlift, whether that be a specific running time, it might be a 5K time, a 10K time, perhaps it's a 2K row time, perhaps it's a very specific Hyrox style workout. And you use these as metrics to track as you go through your training block. If you utilize that sort of strategy and notice that these numbers start to stall, they start to stagnate and plateau, then that is a clear sign that you're, probably overcompensating or undercompensating in some way, shape or form because your training has in fact plateaued. Now, some reasons why that may happen, as I've just alluded to there, it could be underfueling. You're simply not eating enough or simply not eating enough of the right things to fuel your performance. I've made plenty of videos that discuss, nutrition around Hyrox and running and performance related goals. It might be that you're not taking on enough carbohydrates to fuel your workouts or not enough protein after your workouts to support reparation and growth of muscle mass. Another one that I see all too often, and for me this is the most common one, it's one that I've been guilty of myself, is simply overtraining. If you overtrain, you don't incorporate deload weeks or you don't include easy days into your training, you're just going to blow up. It's simple. None of us are robots. These elite guys build up volume over years and years and years, and even then they take rest days and they take nice and easy recovery sessions. So, managing load and not overtraining is probably one of the most important things that you need to consider if you're looking to avoid those training plateaus. And then similar to that is, of course, a lack of recovery work. So if you're not properly sleeping, if you're not, getting in the odd sauna or you're not stretching regularly, that is another that's another good way to make sure that you're going to hit that training plateau. So avoid that at all costs as well. Sign number 2, you're constantly fatigued, even after a rest day. So even if you've got to a point where you're trying to take rest days and you're trying to back off, if you're still feeling fatigued, this is a position that I got in, you probably need to take an extended period of time off, and it's probably too far past the point if you're still tired even after taking those rest days. Some clear signs that this is happening is after a night's sleep, you're still waking up feeling tired. It's a real mission to get out of bed. You've got no energy during your workouts. It's a real drag throughout the day. You can't show up, in your relationships and you can't show up at work feeling your best self. And this happens as a result, most definitely, of overtraining, as I've mentioned. There's 2 ways that we can avoid overtraining whilst I'm talking on the topic. One of them is incorporating deload weeks, so we can think of that on a more macro sort of size basis on the bigger picture of our entire sort of training flow. I advise a sort of deload week every 8 weeks. So after 8 weeks of, progress, take a back off week. You might do half the volume, keep the intensity there, or you might just take an extra couple of rest days that week, whatever it may be. That's one way we can look at it. And the other way to avoid overtraining is to keep the easy days really nice and easy. I've spoken about polarization in a previous video, but this is effectively where we keep our hard days really nice and hard, so we're really pushing for intensity in these sessions, but our easy days are super easy. We keep them nice and light. That's a good way to train smart and avoid overtraining. Again, another reason you might be always fatigued is that you're, not fueling adequately. You're not taking on the right things. You're not getting the right splits of carbohydrates. You might be just, sacrificing the quality of your food. You might be not eating, enough anti-inflammatory foods, for example. That can be another reason. And then, of course, you've also got, which is closely related to the overtraining side of things, fatigue to your central nervous system as well. So, if you're constantly hitting high intensity workouts, you've got, loads of interval sessions, you don't know when to take it easy. This is, again, something that I've struggled with in the past. Your central nervous system will eventually just start to break down. It can't cope with the constant load. So that's another thing to be mindful of and keep in mind. And the third one is a constantly elevated heart rate. This is why I advise keeping an eye on heart rate if possible. If you've got a strap or a watch, just, keeping a close eye on where your heart rate tends to be during certain sort of workouts, whether it's, a strength-based workout or, a threshold workout. Where is your heart rate tending to sit? And that can inform us, or it can provide a fair bit of information for when we may be overtraining and pushing ourselves too hard and going down a bit of a bad path with our training. Because if our heart rate is constantly elevated, it's a sign that we are, under fatigue and we are pushing ourselves a little bit too hard. If it only has to be sort of 5 to 10 beats per minute above what it normally is. Now, most sort of watches, heart rate straps are really good now. They actually tell you when your heart rate is higher than it is typically. So another indicator, of course, I've mentioned there to keep track of your heart rate and where it tends to sit during training, but your resting heart rate as well. If your resting heart rate is higher than it usually is, again, that's another clear indicator, and it only has to be, as I say, 5 to 10 beats per minute higher than normal. Another sort of sign, forget, the trend of where it is sitting, but also how quickly it gets there. So if you've started a workout and you're hitting that, threshold zone really, really quickly, when it tends to take a little while to get there, that may be another clear indicator that your heart rate is more elevated than it typically should be. Okay, the reasons that this can happen is because, again, the nervous system damage, the central nervous system has been battered, and you enter this fight or flight state straight away. Your central nervous system simply can't cope. It might be, a cause of, as I've already mentioned, the overtraining. That's a common theme that's flowing throughout this video, as you can tell. Again, the lack of recovery, not making sure that you're sleeping properly or taking the odd sauna, as I say, and just looking after your body. It could also be a matter of being stressed outside of the gym and outside of, the running track or wherever it may be. You might have other stresses in your life, be it work, be it relationships. So keeping on top of that can be really important too. But that, I've just realised I've got to the point, I got to the bottom of my notes there. That is the 3 signs. I said that I wanted to fly through this and just give you, some real basic information on some areas to look out for before you enter your next Hyrox race. I do think that the most difficult thing when it comes to Hyrox, and this might sound crazy, is actually getting to the race in good nick. If you can get to that start line feeling good about yourself, knowing you've put in a solid block of training and trained mindfully and with a smart approach, you've executed your sessions, you've not pushed yourself too hard, you've eaten all the right things, you've nailed down your nutrition strategy, you're sleeping and recovering well, you've got a good circadian rhythm going on, and you get to that race start and you're feeling good, that's such a win in itself, because you're destined for a good race if that is the case. So paying attention to these sorts of signs and manage them and coping them. Again, I repeat, a training plateau, your fatigue, chronic fatigue, constantly fatigued, and of course, what was our final point there, an elevated heart rate as well. So managing those 3 signs, using them as metrics to keep an eye on track, is going to be really important before you enter your next Hyrox race. But if there's anything that has piqued your interest in this video, please be sure to leave a comment in the comment section down below. I reply to every comment, I read them all, so please do let me know if there's anything you want to know a little bit more about. If there's anything that you want to see off the back of this video, leave some feedback and I'll be sure to make a video explaining your points and questions in a little bit more detail. Also, in the description down below, there will be a link to a funnel. So for full transparency, that will explain a little bit more about what I offer as a coach and what my services entail. So you can learn a little bit about that down there if you want to, harness the power of these sorts of techniques and strategies in a little bit more detail. There's no pressure to do so, but I'm making you fully aware of that just so that you know. If you've made it to this point in the video, thank you very much for watching. I'd really appreciate it if you could like, comment and subscribe, because I'm bringing plenty of valuable content just like this one. So if you've learned anything from this, please do consider hitting that subscribe button, dropping a like. It really does help me out. But if you've made it to this point in the video, I really do appreciate you. You're an absolute legend. Stay tuned. There's plenty of content coming soon. I'll see you in the next one in a bit.